NBC10 Breaking News.
Good evening. We're interrupting your regular programming here to bring you some breaking news of a small plane crash happening in Northeast Philadelphia right now. You are looking at images in the 7300 block of Roosevelt Boulevard. This is near the Macy's area where a small plane crashed this evening. Right now we're getting some reports of sightings of buildings and areas on fire. We have not confirmed any information on any injuries at this point, but we do have crews on the way.
Oh, the plane just ran.
And you can see just how shocking and disturbing that was for people who were just going about their daily business in that area of the city. We're going to go now to Tracy Davidson in our newsroom, who has more information about this crash. Tracy?
We're getting a little bit of information about the plane as well. We understand that it was a medical plane. It had just left Northeast Airport, which is not too far, as you know, from the mall. And it was headed to, according to FlightAware, it was headed to Springfield, Missouri. We're getting more information about the timeline of this crash. FlightAware shows the plane, again, as we have known and said, that it took off from Northeast Airport around 6:06. Take a look at that flight path on your screen. The green line shows how far the plane made it, about 1,600 feet in the air. We also have a recording from air traffic control from the moment the plane took off. So let's listen to that initial communication.
Medevac Med Service 056 on departure, turn right heading 290, runway 24, clear for takeoff, wind 25010.
That's when the plane was preparing for departure. The next clip you're going to hear is when the plane was cleared for takeoff.
Medevac Med Service 056 affirmative. On departure, turn right heading 290, runway 24, clear for takeoff.
Okay, and then shortly after that, the air traffic controller tries to make contact with the plane on departure, and you will hear the pilot respond.
Medevac Med Service 056, contact Philly departure 123.8.
123.8, Mike Tango Sierra 056 Medevac. Thank you, good day.
And after takeoff, air traffic control tries to make contact with that pilot again. You will hear they get no response from the Medevac Med Service. Listen to this.
Medevac Med Service Northeast Tower. Medevac Med Service 056 Northeast Tower, you on frequency?
Medevac Mike Tango Sierra 056 Northeast Tower, how do you hear this transmission?
There are a few more attempts from air traffic control to make contact with the plane. Next, you hear air traffic control refer to the plane as a lost aircraft.
Approach to runway 24, what's going on down there?
Digit 765, we have a lost aircraft. We're not exactly sure what happened, so we're trying to figure it out. For now, the field is going to be closed, so no inbounds or outbounds probably.
Claudia Vargas is joining us now. I know you've been doing a lot of research over the past couple of hours. Are you giving us information on the plane? I just spoke with the spokesperson for the company, Jet Rescue Air Ambulance, and they confirmed that they do not believe there are any survivors on this plane. They have confirmed that there were 6. 4 of those were crew. 1 was a minor who was a patient, and then that patient's guardian. They were actually all Mexican nationals and were headed back to Tijuana today. And it's unclear if the pilots there had taken off previously from the airport in the Northeast, but they're very experienced pilots is what I'm told. They fly about 600 flights each year. And so they're saying that this is very rare and that it comes as a big shock to them that this would have happened.
And as far as we know, the plane was not in the air very long at all.
No, it had just taken off and it had just refueled, hence why we saw the big flames.
Oh, yeah.
But we do have a soundbite from the spokesperson we spoke with.
What were they doing in the U.S.? What were they doing in Philadelphia?
Medical care. The patient came to the United States for medical care. And the trip was a trip to repatriate her back, and much to our regret, it appears that there are no survivors from that crash.
Okay, I'm so sorry. So was the patient receiving care here at a hospital in Philadelphia?
The patient was received. I'm not at liberty to say where and what, especially because it's a minor child All I can say is she came to the United States for life-saving treatment. The treatment ran its course. She was ready to go home, and we were contracted to bring her back home to Mexico. The flight's ultimate destination was Tijuana International Airport, from which they were scheduled to go home by ground ambulance.
Mismo es Alberto, aquí está con nosotros Claudia Vargas, nuestra periodista investigativa de Telemundo 62. Tengo entendido, Claudia, que ya hablaste con la compañía a la que le pertenecía esta avioneta. ¿Qué te están diciendo?
Sí, bueno, hablamos con un representante de la avioneta médica y confirmaron que habían 6 pasajeros, 4 que eran la tribuna, el piloto, los médicos, disculpa, y una pequeña que era la que estaba recibiendo el tratamiento médico acá en Estados Unidos y su acompañante. Y no creen que ninguno de los 6 sobrevivieron esto. Dijeron que el avión acababa de despegar y estaba lleno de gasolina, entonces por eso fue que vimos tan gran explosión. Y lo más triste del caso es que la niña ya volvía a México. Todo el tribunal y la niña y su acompañante, todos son mexicanos y iban de regreso a Tijuana después de recibir tratamiento acá en Estados Unidos. O sea,
esa es la información que estabas compartiendo con nosotros, que ellos acababan de completar la joven un tratamiento y ya regresaba a su hogar.
Que le salvó la vida, dijeron, sí, era
Ay, qué trágico
la vida acá
todo esto.
en Estados Unidos. Iban de regreso y fue una obra de caridad que los iban a regresar a México.
Wow. Obviamente en estos instantes no tenemos la identidad específicamente por respeto a la familia, se les informa a ellos, les dan un tiempo a ellos, pero usualmente mañana hay una probabilidad que ya revelen la identidad, o cuánto tiempo usualmente les dan.
Sí, los de la compañía nos dijeron que por razones de HIPAA y eso no nos pueden decir mismo la edad ni la identidad, pero yo creo que ya en unos días, esperando que aprendamos la identidad de la niña y los que estaban en esa avioneta.
Así que todos nacionalidad mexicana, la tripulación, la joven y también la que la acompañaba a ella, y todos llegaban después a su casa después de una larga batalla con la enfermedad que ella estaba luchando, que obviamente en estos instantes no sabemos, pero eso es algo que posiblemente en un futuro nos informen también, además de la identidad. Algo más que compartieron contigo de esta trágica situación, que poco a poco nos sigue llegando más información.
Sí, no, lo único que dijeron fue que los pilotos son súper experienciados, vuelan más de 600 vuelos de estos médicos al año.
Get more information now from Claudia Vargas.
Yeah, so I spoke with a spokesperson for the company that owns the airplane, the Jet Rescue Air Ambulance, and they, as I shared previously, shared with us that all 6 passengers are Mexican nationals. It was including a patient, that patient's guardian, 4 crew members, and they were all heading back home after the patient had been getting life-saving care. Now, when I spoke with the company, I asked about the aircraft, the experience that they had, and they said these are pilots who are extremely experienced. They fly about 600 hours, or 600 flights, each year. And here's a little bit more of that exchange.
Had they flown out of this airport in particular before?
I don't have the flight records in front of me. Obviously, I'm not at the office. This caught me by surprise, like everybody else. So I cannot tell you if they actually were experienced in taking off from that airfield. But in general, I can tell you that our company is probably one of the most experienced air ambulance companies in the Americas. We do between 600 and 700 flights a year. Our pilots are extremely experienced, our co-pilots as well. They all are licensed, they all are certified for the aircraft. This was a reliable aircraft. This was a Lear 55, long-range Learjet, in the Learjet family of airplanes, well-maintained. So to us, it's a shock, it's a surprise, and we will wait for the results of the NTSB investigation as to what happened here.
And so you heard him there. He said it's a reliable aircraft. He said they constantly do maintenance on it, and so they're really at a loss for what happened here.
And of course, a mystery, as we heard from the aviation expert as well, talking about the descent of it and the speed and that pitch of 45 degrees. And when we hear how experienced the crew was on board, and in terms of the plane, how long it is, what, 600, 700 flights?
700 flights a year, yeah.
A lot of questions and answers still to come.
Claudia, thank you. Yeah, we want to.
Right now, we want to turn over to Claudia Vargas. You've been able to get important information about the flight, the plane.
Yes, we spoke with Jet Rescue Air Ambulance, which owns it's the company that owns the plane that crashed today. And they shared that they have really experienced pilots. These are pilots who fly more than 600 flights a year. The team that was there, it's unclear if they've flown out of Philadelphia before, but they said these are pretty routine flights that they take all the time. They mostly focus on international travel. And so, as we mentioned before, this was a child from Mexico who had been receiving life-saving care here in the U.S., had her guardian with her. And the flight crew was also Mexican nationals, and they were heading back. Now, the flight was going to Missouri first, and then from there, it was scheduled to go down to Tijuana, Mexico, where that was the final destination. And we have a little bit more detail from the spokesperson for the company.
This was an ordinary course flight with a seasoned crew, with a very dedicated medical team, and we are just it obviously has caught us by surprise. We are shocked and dismayed, and we send our condolences. Our hearts are with the patient, their family, any innocent bystanders that may have been hurt on the ground. Of course, the families of our pilot, co-pilot, physician, and paramedic. It's a great loss. It's a very great loss. These people work every day to save lives, and it is just unfortunate that the plane went down.
You can just hear the stress there. They're still in shock. They're still processing what happened and just looking for answers to see what the NTSB can determine happened here.
Yeah. So sad that she made that flight to get life-saving care here to save her from Mexico, and then this happens.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
Awful. Claudia, thank you. Claudia Vargas, you've been gathering a lot of details throughout the evening about that plane we were just describing.
Yeah, well, just so heartbreaking to hear that the staff had a send-off for her today. Yeah. She was on her way home after what we've learned was life-saving care that she received here in Philadelphia, was expected to go home. Now, we spoke with Jet Rescue Air Ambulance, which was the company that owns the medical airplane that crashed, and they said that these are very experienced pilots. They do 600 to 700 of these flights each year. They're accustomed to transporting patients, especially these pediatric ones, and they're just, in shock that this had happened. We looked at some of that FAA data, and there hasn't been a crash of this particular type of aircraft in 8 years. And even then, the ones, that had occurred before, it was just injuries, and they were considered minor from the FAA. So for this to happen has just been very tragic. Now, we did also learn a little bit more about that flight path. It was supposed to go to Missouri, then refuel, and ultimately the final destination was Tijuana. But let's listen to what the official with Jet Rescue Air Ambulance told us.
What were they doing in the U.S.? What were they doing in Philadelphia?
Medical care. The patient came to the United States for medical care. And the trip was a trip to repatriate her back, and much to our regret, it appears that there are no survivors from that crash.
Okay, I'm so sorry. So was the patient receiving care here at a hospital in Philadelphia?
The patient was receiving, I'm not at liberty to say where and what, especially because it's a minor child. All I can say is she came to the United States for life-saving treatment. The treatment ran its course. She was ready to go home, and we were contracted to bring her back home to Mexico. The flight's ultimate destination was Tijuana International Airport, from which they were scheduled to go home by ground ambulance.
And so since then, we've obviously heard from Shriners Children's Hospital saying that this was their patient, and they were the agency that contracted the air ambulance.
But again, so few crashes, the 14 that did occur of the 61 crashes overall on takeoff. And we, of course, know that this plane was on takeoff as well, and only in the air 30 seconds before crashing down.
Yeah, and the official said it had just refueled, so hence why we probably saw that big ball of fire, unfortunately.
Claudia, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.